Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. This week, my guest is Katie Hunt. She's the founder of Tradeshow Bootcamp and the host of the Proof to Product podcast. And I'm really excited to talk with Katie because she's doing something that I think is really essential for us as creators, and we'll get into that. But before then, Katie, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Ijama, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thanks. I'm so glad to have you on. And folks know I chit chat before we start the recording.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm really happy to talk about is the world outside of Etsy, because today, just with everything that's going on with Etsy, I think it's so important to use that as a launch pad, but then to look outward. And I like what you're doing for the creative community. So I'm so excited to get into all of that.
Thank you.
Before we do, can you tell us a little bit about you and Tradeshow Bootcamp?
Sure. So, hi guys. Thank you so much again for having me. My name is Katie Hunt, and I am the founder of Tradeshow Bootcamp and Proof to Product. And what we're doing through Tradeshow Bootcamp is teaching product-based businesses, and they're mainly in the stationery and gift industries, but we're seeing a wider range of makers come work with us as of late. But what we do is we teach them how to create a wholesale program for their company and how to basically get their products on the shelves of retail shops, big and small. So we have alumni that are on the shelves of Target and Anthropologie and, the Container Store, and then also at smaller independent boutiques around the world. And so what we teach them is how to build their product line for wholesale, how to price it, how to have the right sales tools in place. We also talk about exhibiting at trade shows and what that looks like and who that would be good for. And then pitching and reaching out to buyers and how to position themselves so they're getting in front of the right audience with the right types of stores for their products.
Wow, Katie, I love that. So to be clear, when you say you teach not buyers, you teach creators how to create wholesale programs for their products and exhibit at trade shows. Are these hands-on lessons that you teach, or do you provide online resources where folks can go and do like self-study courses?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So we have a lot of different ways that you can work with us. Our signature program is called Paper Camp, and that is a 2-day in-person conference where we walk you through all the steps you need to take. And it's very tailored to each of the individuals. We keep it really small. It's about 30 people, and we answer your questions. We sit in a U shape. So it's a very conversational 2 days. It's not lectures at the front of the room. We also realize that not everyone can make it to Los Angeles where we host that. So we do have it as an online course as well. And it's not like the other online courses you probably are familiar with. This is a 4-week program that includes you watch some videos on your own. On Mondays, those new videos are released in our online classroom. And then middle of the week, we have a live group coaching call. And that's where myself and other guest experts come on and we meet over video chat and we answer all of your questions. So it's not like you're just left to kind of go through the material on your own.
Yes.
We're really hand-holding you. We also have a lot of we have a online Facebook group that we use for that specific class. So again, we keep things small, and that online course is about 30 people. So we really people are sharing their catalogs and asking questions about their products for feedback. And it's a really intimate group, and you get a lot of face-to-face time with me in there as well. And then we do have a few programs where you could just sign up and take it, and it doesn't include, our community aspect or coaching with me. But we also realize that some people prefer that kind of thing where it's just, they can get in, get the information they need and get out. But I would say we have a wide range of resources available. We have our podcast called Proof Your Product, which is free. We've got a ton of information on our website. We've got, some lower level products for people that, again, just need to get in and get out and get the information they need.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you offer so many different learning formats because, like you said, everyone learns differently. I know for me, I'm such a hands-on learner. I need somebody there to ask questions and
Yeah.
because my mind, I when I'm learning, I need all the blanks filled in. And sometimes with online courses where you work through them yourselves, they skip steps that they assume you would know. Whereas I'm like, no, how do I get from A to 8.2 before B?
Right.
Right. And so
Yes.
it helps to know that there's an option for different learning styles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love in-person learning. I like being immersed in whatever topic I'm studying at the moment. And I like connecting with other people. Community and connection there is really important to me. But at the same time, I realize, people have different budgets. They have different priorities. They have different learning styles. And so we really do try to meet our community members where they are in their business and provide them with content and educational opportunities that are suited for where they are in their business.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you said about Paper Camp is that it's limited to 30 people. Do you have a certain set of criteria that you follow to determine who gets to attend of all the people who would want to make it to LA?
Yeah. Well, we don't have prerequisites, if you will. We don't require you to have been in business for a certain amount of time or, be earning a certain amount of money. Really, we have people that are brand new in business that attend because they want to get started on the right foot and they're trying to figure out, okay, I know this is a product I want to make, but I'm not sure how I want to take it to market. Do I want to sell retail through my site or Etsy? Do I want to try to sell wholesale? Because they are very different models. So we do have people at that phase of business that come as more of a exploration of is this something I want to do phase? And then we have a second audience too. And those are our more experienced business owners. They have typically been selling for a while on Etsy or their online shop, or maybe they've even dabbled a tiny bit in wholesale, kind of reacting to inquiries that have come in. But they're they know they want to wholesale. They're trying to make sure that they're doing it right. And they're also considering whether wholesale shows like the National Stationery Show or New York Now are a good next step for them. So they're trying to kind of create a stronger foundation on the wholesale side. And so again, we don't have prerequisites, but I always encourage people to email me if they have questions about if they are ready or not. And I have told people, I think you should wait. And here's why. And here's what I want you to focus on. And then maybe come next round. Because I don't want anyone wasting their time or money to come and realize, oh gosh, this is not for me. Or I'm not ready. Because let me take that back a little bit. I do love when people come and they think they want to do wholesale and then they listen to all we have to say and they're like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is right for me because that clarity is invaluable, right? They spent 2 days with us and saved themselves thousands of dollars and months of hard work trying to test something to see if it works. But I don't want somebody that is I'd rather have a conversation with somebody before they enroll to make sure it's the right fit for them, because I really want anyone that takes any of my programs or does coaching with me to get maximum value out of it. I don't want them wasting their time or money.
Yes. I appreciate that you have that point of view, because I, for one, know I've taken some courses where at the end, I just thought, I wish they would have told me I wasn't a candidate for this, because not only was it a waste of my time, it was a waste of their effort. And I wouldn't even be able to recommend it just because I wasn't the right person for it. So I can't be an advocate of it. So I think it's good that you have, that you have the same perspective on who should and shouldn't.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm running a small business here too. So of course I want to fill up my programs, but here's the thing. Business is built on relationships, and I want to pour into my community members and my students as much as I possibly can and support them in what their goals are. My job here is not to trick people into coming to a program or, like that's not who I am. And so, yeah, I want to make sure again that we're meeting people where they are and what they're struggling with in their business and providing them with solutions.
Yeah. So, Katie, how did you get into all this? What's your backstory?
Yeah, it's kind of a windy road. I guess that's how all of our stories are, right? But so I was working in the corporate world. I was doing business development and marketing for lawyers of a totally different industry. Yeah, and my husband and I were getting married, and I designed our wedding invitations. It was a really fun creative outlet for me in this really corporate job. It was fun for me to go home and play with, color and paper and textures and all that stuff. And so I did our wedding invitations and, I was in that phase where a lot of friends were getting married and several of them wanted me to design their invitations. And I did some personalized stationery cards for people. And, everyone's like, you should put this on Etsy. And so I did. And I started getting orders. And then I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the creation process. I enjoyed connecting with my customers. And I enjoyed how different it was too from my corporate job. And so if you know me, I think I've been an entrepreneur since I was a little girl. I mean, I think I was making friendship bracelets back in the day and all these things. But my mom turned to me and she's like, you really are passionate about this. If you're going to do it, why not just do it? Like, have you thought about trying to reach out to stores? And to me, wholesale was totally foreign. I didn't know what I was getting into, but this was October 2008, and I started studying about the National Stationery Show and what it meant to wholesale. And I went and exhibited at the next show in May of 2009. It was less than 6 months being in business, and it was insane. I was I thought I was prepared, but I was not as prepared as I would have liked. There were just things that I didn't know because I didn't have the experience or, the knowledge base or the community to lean on either. And so after that show, I don't regret it at all. I had a few orders but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about my pricing, about my aesthetic as a designer, about what wholesale meant, about what stores were looking for. I learned a ton. And so when I came back, a friend asked me to write a blog post about 5 things I wish I had known prior to signing up to exhibit for the stationery show. And so I wrote this blog post, and, at the time blogs were just kind of getting started. And, I started getting emails after every time the show would come around. I started getting emails from people that were just like me, 1 or 2 person shops, wondering, how much does this really cost? How much product do I need to have? It was the same questions over and over. And I would sit there and thoughtfully write people back on my lunch break from my job, my day job. And, but then I started to see, okay, these are the same types of questions coming in over and over, 1. And 2, I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring these things out myself. So then the idea came to my head of like, well, let me get my friends together in the industry. I've now met a few people. I know some buyers. I know some sales reps, other manufacturers. Let's get everybody together and share what we know, and let's leverage each other's experiences and resources and knowledge so that each of our own businesses can grow. And it never occurred to me that this was like asking competition to share their secrets, because in my head I thought, we're all going to share what we know, but then we're going to take that information and use it in different ways. And so I started Tradeshow Bootcamp in 2011 while I still had the day job and I was still doing my stationery line, and it took off and in ways I never expected. And we have built this really amazing community. We started with just 4 teleconference calls that were specifically about trade shows, which is why the company is called Tradeshow Bootcamp. And then we realized, people weren't ready. They weren't ready. How do I explain this? They needed more than just the trade show stuff. They needed the product development, the pricing, the sales tools. So we needed to take a big step back and start with that, so that they had all those things ready before they ever dove into trade shows. And so now we talk about all the product development and creating your wholesale line and all the things you need in place before a show. And we also talk about ongoing maintenance of your wholesale program, like how you reach out to stores, when you should be releasing new product and all of that. So it's a really all-encompassing program now. And it's grown up quite a bit over the last 8 years. Again, we started with teleconference calls. We moved to online webinars. We did in-person conferences, the e-course, we've held it in a few different formats, but changing as the needs of our community have changed too.
Katie, I'm so impressed because I'll admit I always throw it out there on the podcast, and I feel like I should stop saying it, but I think the more I say it, the closer I get to actually doing it. But I'm so impressed with people like you who are able to put together something like this conference where you knew there was a need, and then you filled it, and then you realized there was even more of a need than you thought, and then you backtracked and then filled that as well. Because I know so much goes into running a conference and putting together educational meetings like this.
It does, but let me also preface this with two things.
Yeah.
One, I think it's super important to listen to your audience, and for everyone listening that makes products, that goes for you too. Like, we need to be iterating things at times and improving and listening to our audience to see how we can make what we're doing even better. Because if we just sit in what we're already doing, it's going to get stale. People are going to outgrow what we're doing. But secondly, I do want to make mention, I have a background in business. I have a dual MBA in marketing and finance. I had worked in the corporate world for over a decade where I was doing events and things like this. So it was like, I do want to preface this just by saying, like, I had some background knowledge about how to do these things. And I looked around, and my community of people are amazing, talented designers. And I was so self-taught in art and design. I remember learning Adobe Illustrator going, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. And so in so much that, I've got my special talents and skills, I was looking at my community members and the artists that I'm working with now, and I'm like, gosh, they're so talented. So it just goes to show that, like, we all bring unique things to the table and different areas of expertise and skill sets. And so I learned as much from my community as they learned from me. It's just different ways. And you're bringing that to your audience too.
Great. Thank you for the encouragement.
Of course.
So currently, do you still run your own stationery line, or are you fully focused on offering education to the creative community now?
That's a great question. So at the end of 2016, I hit a wall. That was the year I had our fourth baby. I taught 4 classes for Creative Live. I was still manufacturing my products and selling them to both retail and wholesale channels. I was doing Tradeshow Bootcamp too. Like, there was just too many things. I hit a wall, and I had to make some really tough decisions. And at that time, I decided to cease all manufacturing for Kelp Designs. That's my stationery brand. And my reason for that was I was really passionate about the work I was doing through Tradeshow Bootcamp. I also had 4 young children that I needed to, take care of and give my time to. And it was just too many things. And I was at a crossing point where I either needed to hire people to keep Kelp going and to do the fulfillment and design and all that, or I could hire people to help with boot camp, or just cut back on things and continue doing them myself and growing in a more organic way. And so I decided to scale back. And it was a really hard decision because I loved the work I was doing with Kelp and the relationships I had built with my buyers. But ultimately, that's what I decided. So I am not actively manufacturing product now. I still do have some licensing deals through that company. So the company still exists, but it's not making physical products anymore.
Okay. How do you stay in touch with industry changes now that you've scaled back on actually creating your own products?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I still have really strong relationships with my manufacturing partners that I've used over the years. I'm reading magazines and staying up to date what's happening in my industry. I also am really well connected with other makers. And I'm coaching a lot of them. So I'm hearing what their pain points are, and I'm hearing what they're struggling with. And then I'm going out and finding solutions. So even though, and this was actually a fear of mine, to be 100% honest with you, I thought, if I'm no longer manufacturing, are people going to take me seriously? Are they going to realize that I can still be an educator if I'm not in the trenches with them anymore? And what I've found is, by not manufacturing, I've been able to widen my knowledge base, because I've been able to study different circumstances and research more and, reach out to people that had solutions for my community that I wouldn't have had the time to do if I was still
Yeah.
manufacturing.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question,
Oh,
but
it does
basically,
perfectly. Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yes, I loved your answer because that's the first thing I think sometimes is if somebody's teaching about something, I want to know that you really understand
Yeah.
where I'm coming from and that you're speaking to me, from a place of understanding. And usually that means you're in the trenches or you're so immersed in that field or what you're
Mm-hmm.
teaching about. And so yes, you did explain that, and it makes sense that when you step back from you know producing your own products, you were able to learn even more that you could bring back to folks in the trenches and
Yeah.
who have developed their own version of tunnel vision because you're focused on what you're doing and might miss the bigger picture. So makes
Yeah.
sense.
The other thing I'd say about it is I never try to tout myself as an expert in all the things because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, you know? And so what I do try to do is bring in other people that have specific experience that I know my community needs to hear about. And so that's one of the reasons I started Proof to Product, because I could highlight different entrepreneurs in our space. I could bring in not just our alumni, but to tell their story of growth, but also, service providers that are offering things that will benefit my community. And so I don't know. I never try to position like I know everything. I
Yes,
try to, but I will help you find somebody that can
that
help you
can.
do this, and I will
Right.
bring that into the fold. So I think that's a huge resource too.
Yes. Yes, being able to point people in the right direction.
Yeah.
One thing I know that you stressed and you've mentioned already in our conversation is community and the importance of community. And the majority of people who will listen to this are selling on Etsy or want to sell on Etsy. And so within Etsy, there are certain communities. There are Etsy teams and there's the forum. But when you talk about community, um, I get the feeling you're talking about something bigger than
Mhm.
joining a team on Etsy or reading the forums and posting your own comments. What does community mean to you as far as the importance it plays in business, and how can an Etsy seller go about growing or connecting to a larger community to help in their business?
Yeah. Well, I think those Etsy teams are a great place for people to start. When I talk about community, I am thinking about all the people that support me in my business, whether they know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So this would include people like business coaches I've hired or mentors. It could include peers that I regularly talk to openly about my business and what I'm doing in my business. It includes people that I'm mentoring and coaching. So to me, community is anyone that is supporting me in my goals and helping me get to that next step, whatever that next step is for you.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have different definitions of success, and we also have different goals that we're reaching towards. So immersing yourself in a community, whether it's an online group or a program or a membership community or any of those things, it could be free or paid, but immersing yourself in a place where you are going to get support from people that are in similar phase of business, or maybe they're in the same industry than you, but they're a step ahead or a step behind. All of those relationships are hugely valuable. I
Mm-hmm.
am a firm believer that businesses are built on relationships,
Yeah.
and that whether you're selling products or services, everything is relationship based. And so having people that understand what you're going through, have either done it themselves or are going through it at the same time as you, that's invaluable to have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. I mean, this is kind of a sidebar here, but if you were to ask my husband right now what I do for work, he would fumble over his answer. He knows I help entrepreneurs. He knows about Paper Camp. He knows what all these things are, but he would have a hard time articulating what it is that I do. And so what I say to him is I help product-based businesses strengthen and build their business, grow their business. And he goes, oh, okay, I get that. And then he's like, so your community, you're helping all of them? And I said, I'm one piece of this bigger puzzle. They're helping each other. They're leaning on each other. They're leaning on me. I'm leaning on them. So it's about finding your people. And it's about many times entrepreneurs, my point about the story with my husband is many times entrepreneurs feel like people don't understand them. They feel like people don't understand what they're doing, or, oh, you make stuff on Etsy. Cool. But like they don't truly understand what it means to run a business. And so I would encourage all of your listeners to find a group of other entrepreneurs, other business owners who are doing similar things to you. If you can find a community of others that are selling on Etsy through the teams or whatever, the next step in that, once you find that crew, is engaging and really getting involved. And that means getting to know these people, sharing stories about what you're working on, asking for advice, just really interacting as much as you possibly can, because that's how relationships are built, and making sure it's reciprocal, that you're asking and helping as much as you're receiving.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned mentoring as part of growing your community. Sometimes it's hard to decide on who to approach and how to approach them. Do you think it's better for a business owner, a creative business owner who wants to grow, to get a business coach or a business mentor? Or do you think they're the same thing?
It's a great question. I think in a lot of ways now with online business, they're kind of intertwined to some extent. But there's a lot of people out there that are happy to mentor people for free. And so I would look at your local, wherever you live, look locally at who's running businesses and, ask for some informational interviews. Ask if you can buy somebody coffee. Now, be respectful of their time, and, maybe in your email to them, explicitly say to them, I'm looking for a mentor to help with X, Y, and Z topics, try to be as specific as possible. But at the same time, most people are willing to give you an hour. It's just how you approach them that's really important. I think if somebody writes back and says, oh, I'd be happy to do a coaching session, well, maybe consider if that's in your budget or not, but don't feel obligated either. There's a lot of peer mentoring that happens too. I'm in 2 mastermind groups with peers where we don't pay to participate, but it is very much a reciprocal. I'm providing help to them and feedback on them. We're kind of serving as each other's board of advisors, if you will. And so, look for something like that where you're either starting it amongst your peers, or look for a paid program that's a mastermind, because that's usually a lower price point too than paying for a coach one-on-one. But honestly, I think mentors are incredibly valuable. I think you cannot go wrong by reaching out to people and just asking if they'd have time to mentor you and see what they say. I think people are really flattered when people ask, but you just do want to be respectful of their time.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. And I've done it different ways, the ways you've mentioned. And I have to say, and this isn't to say that it will be the same for everyone, but I found the peer mastermind groups, if you will, at the time, I don't think I would have called it a mastermind group, but
right.
Thinking back to it, that's exactly what it was. It was just a small group of us who were trying to figure things out together. But, everybody knew a little bit of something, and some things that other people didn't know, there were people who knew about it, and there was so much growth from that. And
absolutely,
it was free, other than us committing to spend focused time together to just help each other grow. And so that's a good way to start.
I 100% agree with you that the commitment is the most important aspect of starting a peer mastermind group. Making sure everyone is clear on, okay, we are meeting once a month and it's at this coffee shop at this time on this day, put it on your calendar, or, we're meeting online, whatever it might be, but making sure that whoever you choose to invite to that inner circle of yours, that they are truly committed and they understand that the point is that you're all going to support each other.
Yes. And to listen to a conversation with another Etsy seller that's doing this really well, and Katie, forgive me for going off track a bit, but
No, please.
I
I'm
had a
curious.
conversation with Rochelle Fidget, and she runs the Etsy shop Pacific Crest Silver, and she has a group that she put together. Well, her and some local sellers, and I don't think they're all on Etsy. I think maybe 2 or 3 of them are, and it's about 5 or 6 of them, and she talked about the guidelines that they set for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
for the group, to make sure everyone was committed. It's not paid, but it's something that they're very committed to and take seriously. And it's really helped them grow their business. And I will link to that episode for anyone who hasn't listened to it yet, because I think what she's doing with her mastermind group is a nice example of how, other people can a nice example
To
for other
model it.
people to
Yeah.
model. Yes, if you
Yeah.
don't know where to start, because she went into detail about, the guidelines they set up and all whatnot. And it's so simple, but like you said, the commitment has to be there.
Yeah. So I'm in 2 peer-led mastermind groups right now, and one of them is we meet every other week, and it's, everyone's committed. It's for an hour. The other one meets once a month. So like there's infinite ways to set these things up. If I had to hone in on what the most important components were, I would say making sure you have the right people in the group that are there for similar reasons and similar goals. I would encourage you to find people that have different experiences. Even they could be in different types of businesses, product, service, any of it. I think it's just more about the commitment.
Yeah.
And making sure that everyone's on board and has the same motivation for doing it. The other thing is too, and I know we kind of glazed over this earlier, I wouldn't be afraid to invest in programs either, like paid mastermind or coaches. And I know that that's for the right, like you have to be in the right place with your business, because you obviously want to make sure you're getting a lot of great return on your investment there. But I've done peer masterminds, and I think that's exactly where your audience should start. But from there, I do think some of the masterminds that are run by coaches are great. Just do your research and make sure what they're talking about is applicable to what you're trying to learn. But they can be a really great source too.
Yes. And I will piggyback on that and say, yes, I completely agree. And I've done paid coaching as well. And sometimes you want to sit under someone who is going to guide you and tell you what to do. You get to a point where you want somebody teaching you or talking at you or to you, but not in a bad way, in a way that you need.
Sometimes we need some tough love as entrepreneurs, it's tough.
Yes, exactly.
I joke with my clients. I'm like, we get decision fatigue as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We all of the decisions are on our shoulders, and that gets to be exhausting. And, sometimes we lose our way in terms of, why did I start this thing? I started to create these fun products, and now I'm, the CEO of my business, and I'm exhausted. And so sometimes, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching or a paid mastermind, like you will get the answers, you will get the push. And sometimes it's what you want to hear, and sometimes it's not. But ultimately, but at the same time, it's all usually coming from a really great place from somebody that's been there and has a unique perspective looking in on your business. So
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the pain points that sellers have, especially Etsy sellers who want to grow and expand, is when it comes to scaling their businesses, sometimes that involves hiring staff. Can we talk about hiring practices and strategies that solopreneurs, people who work by themselves or run their businesses as a one-man or one-woman show, can use to bring on additional help so that they can grow their businesses to that next stage?
Oh, this is a huge pain point for my audience as well. Because majority of my audience are 1 or 2 person shops, and most of them are in their homes doing everything themselves. I have a delegating course that I walk people through of like how to even just identify what you should be outsourcing to somebody else. Because I will tell you, I'm finding that a lot of creatives are like, oh, they start talking about what they're outsourcing once well, let me back up here. Once they start outsourcing, they are like, they want to outsource everything because they realize how empowering it can be.
Yeah.
And so but one thing I do want to say is that when you start outsourcing, you need to be cognizant that like what another person is outsourcing may not be the right fit for you. So just because somebody's using a virtual assistant doesn't necessarily mean that same person in that same role is going to be a good fit for you. So I don't know, that's off on a little tangent here, but basically I think people need to look internally first at what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And what do I enjoy doing? What do I not like doing in my business? And wherever you have pain points, that's where you should look to outsource first. And so if like one area that a lot of my people start outsourcing is bookkeeping. And then the other one is fulfillment of packaging up their products and actually shipping their products out. Now, not everyone is going to start with one of those two things, but I've seen over and over that that's where a lot of people start. So I would encourage people to look internally of like how I'm spending my day. Which of those items do I really not enjoy doing? Or am I not the best at too? Because if you can hire somebody that's really good at those things, even if you're paying the money, you're saving yourself time and they're probably going to do a better job at it than you are. So I think there's some misconceptions around hiring. I think people are fearful about hiring because they think they have to hire a full-time employee with benefits. And that's not the case at all. There are a lot of people out there that want virtual part-time work and, or even in-person part-time work. And so getting our head around the fact that there is a whole ecosystem of people wanting flexible work arrangements, that is amazing for people like us that need just, a little bit of help here and there. Maybe it's a project basis. Maybe it's just a handful of hours a week or a month. So I don't know if that I felt like I was jumping around there a little bit with my response, but I want people to change their mindset around the fact that I don't have to hire somebody full-time with benefits. I can hire people for project-based or just even hourly work.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think the other thing that I know people like us struggle with is letting go. So we know we need the help, and let's say we come to the point where we realize, okay, I don't have to hire someone on full-time 100% benefited, but there's that thing about letting go and how comfortable we are with letting certain things go. We all feel like there's certain things that we do the best or we need to touch before we feel it's done correctly. What advice would you say to that person listening who is having a hard time deciding on what parts of the business to hand off on and which parts to hold on to?
I think another fear, just to add to what you were saying, is that, well, in the time it takes me to train this person to do this job, I could have already done it.
Yes.
Yeah, I could have already done it.
Yeah.
And yes, that is true. However, there are tasks in your business that you are doing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you could simplify that and systematize it and hand that off to somebody else, it will free you up to focus on the higher level revenue generating projects that your business needs you for. You are the creative mind behind what you're doing. You need to be focused on creating the products that you create or the services that you offer, and you can have other people handle the other things. Now, I don't mean to diminish at all the control thing.
Yeah.
That is a very real fear and concern. And it's something that I think every entrepreneur goes through of like, how do I let go of this? How do I let somebody else in? And so I would encourage your audience to really start small, start with a single project and see how it goes. Product fulfillment and like packaging is a really great place to start. And I think once people start outsourcing and they see how it frees them up to focus on other things within their business, that's where the mindset shift happens because they realize, wait a minute, I can pay this person $15 an hour to do whatever this is. But in the meantime, I'm creating all these new products that are going to create me more revenue in my business. Well, yes, of course I'm going to do this. It becomes like a no-brainer a little bit once you start looking at the numbers and the time and the allocations.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up numbers, because that was the next thing I was going to ask. Financially, how does one decide they have the budget to actually pay someone else to take over some things so that they can focus on more revenue generating activities?
Yeah, I think it's a leap of faith for a lot of people, to be honest. I don't know many solo entrepreneurs who actually budget it out and say, okay, well, I can afford to pay this much. Let me go find somebody to do the job for this much. I think what's more common is we run ourselves into the ground and I say this from my own experience as well. So I'm not trying to be hard on anybody, but we run ourselves into the ground. We push ourselves up against a wall, and out of desperation, we either have to cut some things or we need to bring on help. And those are the two options. And so, but I will tell you, when we're hiring under pressure like that, it is typically not the best way to do it. We end up typically spending more money or hiring somebody that maybe isn't right, or, it's troublesome. So I would encourage people that, so one thing is, when you're creating your production costs, when you're thinking about how much it costs you to produce your products, a lot of people leave out the labor part of it because they're doing it themselves. And I would encourage you to think, what would I need to pay somebody to do that part of the creation process or the fulfillment process, and work that into your pricing. So that way you've got a bit of a buffer there. So when you are ready to outsource it, you know that you don't have the money covered per se, but it's what's the word? It's accounted for.
Yeah.
So, so you don't feel like you're taking money out of your pocket. You're just shifting around things because your time is going to be spent elsewhere, and instead you're going to be paying those people. Okay. So, I mean, here's the thing too. The rates you're going to spend depend on what you're hiring for. So let me give you a couple examples that might be helpful for your audience. Okay. You could hire somebody on an hourly rate. A virtual assistant could be anywhere from like $15 to $35. The $35 hour people are very specialized. They might be updating your website or doing social media marketing or stuff like that. But the $15 an hour, that could be somebody coming in and doing admin tasks around your studio. You could charge somebody that's doing packaging a flat rate. We also have a lot of our alumni community that are hiring people to package product and paying a per piece price. So for example, a lot of my people do greeting cards, and prepare a plastic tub of cards, and it's unfinished pieces. So the cards, the cello sleeves, any other packaging they need, and they put that in a plastic tub, and they work with a bunch of local moms who are looking for part-time flexible work. And on Monday, these moms come and pick up the tubs, and they have like a form in there about all the different things they need to do. And on Friday, they return the tubs with everything packaged, and they have they have a counting system of like what they did. And so if they did 100 pieces, maybe they were paid 15 cents per card. So, they're paid for that or whatever. Right, yeah. And the idea there is, you as the maker are only paying for the work that's actually done. You're not paying an hourly rate and hoping people are productive. And the idea for the employee side is, if they want to make more money, they'll take more, they'll ask for more product to do. Yeah. And so that's a really nice way to kind of dip your toe in the water too, if that's an area where you need help. Yeah. But I will stress, like I have 7 people on my team right now. One of them, and they're all independent contractors that are all virtual, and they're all very part-time. One of them, I only get 5 hours a month. Okay. And so start small.
Okay. That's very helpful because, as you know, just the thought of bringing someone else on,
it's overwhelming.
Can be very overwhelming. Yes, exactly. And then just, lead a lot of us to say, well, I'm just not going, I'll just do it. Yeah. I'll just do it, Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cause it's easier to just do it. And It's easier to like, just put our head down and do the work rather than think about, how could I create a system here that would work bringing other people on? Yes. But I will tell you, every time I've hired somebody for my business has grown.
Yeah.
My revenue grew. The programs and products we were able to offer grew. Like it freed me up to dream big and think about the next big thing we were going to do. And so if your listeners are really looking to up-level their business, increase their revenue and things like that, I really would encourage them to think about what they can relinquish control of and what they could bring somebody in. Now, don't do it blindly, do interviews and make sure you're hiring people that you trust. Are you going to get it right every time? No.
Right.
But the more informed you are on the front end, the better it's going to be. And to that point too, be very clear about what you need help with. Be very clear about the role this person is playing in your business and how, what your expectations are for them.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Thank you. And that's very helpful. It makes it a lot less daunting to think, okay, if you just start small, it's not permanent, try people out, and then as we experience the benefits of letting go and having someone else do certain things, we can grow. And I think the incentive will be just being able to grow and expand.
Yes.
And sometimes we take a pay cut. Like I've outsourced things things to tasks for my business, and I took a pay cut, but I was more productive and able to do exactly what you said. Essentially, is I was freed up to do more, which eventually, brought in
led
more,
to more,
right? But I took that cut initially just because I just felt like I can't do this anymore if I have to get this done. So
totally.
It makes perfect sense.
I think too, as entrepreneurs, we really need to remember that time is a commodity just like money. And if we could spend our time on something, or we could spend our money hiring somebody else to do it, right? And I'm not saying that hiring somebody else to do it is always the right answer, but I do think we discount our own time and we don't think about how much effort and care and time we're putting into something. And we'll put more time into it than what maybe needs to be done, whereas somebody else, if we're paying them, they're getting in there, they're getting the job done, and they're getting out basically. So it's just a lot more productive all the way around.
Yes. Katie, let's circle back to Tradeshow Bootcamp. I want to make sure we talk about it. So who is it for, and how and when can people get access to it?
Yeah, so we have our Paper Camp conference and our Paper Camp e-course are offered typically twice a year. So the next one's going to be this fall. And you can always head to our website, tradeshowcamp.com/papercamp, to learn more about what we're offering and when the next one is. If we're not currently offering it, there's always a wait list you can join too to receive more information as we open things. But our website is such a great resource for product-based business owners. Even if you are unable to join us for one of our programs right now, I would encourage your listeners to go. We've got great case studies of what other brands are doing, resources available. Of course, our podcast is available. So there's a lot of great information there. But we do run Paper Camp, twice a year in both formats. And we keep it small. We keep all of it small because, again, I want to develop relationships with everyone that's coming through these programs because I consider them family. And when they join our larger community, I want them to know they're being welcomed to our family. So if that is something you're interested in, I would jump on our wait list or grab your seat because they do sell out every time.
Okay. And ideally, who should be considering signing up?
So we have 4 kind of core audiences that we speak to. The first one are people that are beginning in business and they're just getting started and they really need help manufacturing their products. They're trying to figure out what they're making and how they're going to make it and how they're going to price it. Those people, in my opinion, are not quite ready for Paper Camp, but we, again, have a lot of great resources for them. The next tier are people that are interested in wholesale and they're wondering if it's right for them. So they're new to wholesale. And those people should be looking at our Paper Camp program because it's the most in-depth program out there for wholesale stuff. Yes. If I can say that, but,
of course.
But so those people would be, they have a product line. They're thinking about whether or not to diversify into wholesale and they want to know how to do that. Our third audience, they're new to to shows. They're new to wholesale shows, and they're also looking to up-level their wholesale program. And so those people would also be ideal for our paper camp program. They, they're doing their thing and they're doing it well, but they just need to kind of create better systems and a stronger foundation for what they're doing so that they can leverage it for more.
Okay.
And our fourth audience are seasoned business owners that are really looking to scale. And so this is where things like hiring and diversifying your revenue streams and making sure your money is sorted the way it should, and you're paying, taxes and all these things on time. And we also talk about a lot of marketing strategies. So we have resources for all four of those stages of business. And, but I would say those two in the middle are really the sweet spot for coming to paper camp.
Okay. And will there be different tracks for the different people at different stages, or does everyone go through the same tracks?
Well, we have different, we do have different tracks in terms of how we're speaking to each audience. So when people come to our website, we ask them to kind of let us know where they're at in their business. And then we basically serve them up content that's applicable to them and programs that are applicable to them. And as they kind of progress through that, we will, take them up the chain, so to speak.
Okay. And so at the end of attending Tradeshow Bootcamp, what can an attendee expect to walk away with? And what...
That's a great question.
Can they? Okay, good.
No, it's a great question. So my goal with our paper camp program and all of our Tradeshow Bootcamp programs is that you are getting the information you need to take that very next step in your business. And so a couple of things that I tell people at the beginning of our program is I want you to leave here knowing whether or not wholesale is right for you.
Okay.
And if it is, you will have all the steps you need to get there. I want you to also know at the end of this whether or not trade shows are right for you. And if so, you will have all the steps you need to get there. So that's our core program, our signature program, paper camp. That is what I want for them. And that is what they will get. Now, if they walk through and they're like, nope, this isn't for me, no harm, no foul. But if they do want to move forward, they've got all the resources, all of the steps, and the support they need to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you. You know how you attend some conferences or educational programs and you get so inspired when you're there and you listen to all the lectures and you get that infusion of energy and excitement, and then you get home and you're like, okay, but what's my next? Exactly. Yes,
I know that feeling. Yeah, and that's why we have our ongoing community. So after they come through paper camp, they join. We have a Facebook group, and not everybody joins. Some people just don't like Facebook, but we've been on that platform for 8 years with our group. And so we have a long vendor directory that we all add. It's a living, breathing document, and we're all adding new resources to it all the time. Okay. We've talked about every topic under the sun, in my opinion, and we're constantly bumping old threads from years ago to add new content to it. As people have questions, of course. But you have an ongoing support system from not only me, but our entire community of designers that are part of our that have come through paper camp before you.
Okay, good. So we don't just go home to crickets and...
Oh no, I am not a fan of... I won't go to any conferences where I feel like it's just going to be a pitch for one thing after the other. I won't, I am building this business because I want to help people. Yeah. I want to see you grow. I want to see your revenue grow. I want to see you hit your milestones and your success points. And the only way I can do that is if I'm engaged with you.
Yes. Katie, so you've been doing this for a while. You had your own stationery company and now you're teaching. So I know that having worked with so many makers over the past 8 years and maybe even more, you know what mistakes people are making most commonly.
Yeah.
What would you say is something across the board that you think most of us are making that mistake with, and what can we do to turn that ship around before it's too late?
Yeah, I think Well, I think that more of us need to tell our stories. Even
Mm,
if we're selling products, we need to be telling the story behind why we created that product, what the motivation was behind it. And we need to let people into who we are as a brand and as a maker. I think when I was starting out, and I know many of my clients were doing this too, we fell under the fake it till you make it
mm-hmm,
umbrella.
mm-hmm.
And so we would use words on our website like we believe or we do this. And it was like me at home on my computer, like
Yes.
maybe my husband would help pack cards sometimes. But my point is we try to inflate who we are. And I understand why people do it, and I don't think people need to stop necessarily, but I think it's more about letting people into who you are and why you do the things you do, and
Mhm.
knowing that why and communicating that why with your audience will impact so many different layers of you running your business. That why is going to bleed into your marketing copy. It's going to go into your social media that posts that you do.
Mm.
It's going to resonate in your product descriptions. It's going to lead people to want to purchase from you because they know your story and they
Yes.
understand and resonate with that. So I do think when we start, there's this misconception that we have to be bigger than we are. And I think that's not necessarily true these days. I think we just need to be true to who we are and articulate why our work is important and what our goals are, how we're making a difference in the world.
I love that because you're so right. There was one point where I was like, I'm just going to talk about myself like a we.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah, I did for a very long time and I shouldn't have. So you are not
yes.
alone.
Yes. After a while I was like, who am I lying to? Everybody knows it's just me.
Right. I know. I know. Well, and then it was funny too, because I would get upset and I'd say, why do people think I'm bigger than I am? Like it's just me here working hard. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh, because I told them we are
Yes.
working hard,
Yes.
and then, yeah. So, I mean, it's a catch 22.
I love that. um thank you so much because I do agree that just hearing other makers' stories can not just help others connect with us, but it helps others to learn from us. And I think for me, this is one of the most selfish reasons I do this podcast is
Yeah, me too.
just to get yes, you get that. Yes, is to hear other maker stories because some days I just feel like I just can't anymore. And then I talk to someone like you and I hear what you've done and what you're doing and what your struggles are and what your successes are. And then, I go away feeling like, okay, you can do this. You can keep going. Other
Yeah.
people are struggling. Other people are having a hard time with certain things, but they're pushing past it. So take a break, eat some ice cream, go out, do
Yep.
something with, the kids, say somebody, get out, clear your head, then come back and continue. And I think that's when we as makers share our stories, even if we think we're not teaching anybody anything, just hearing that there are other people going through it is enough
Oh,
for
yeah.
somebody else who might be going through it right then.
Oh, yeah. We all have a story to share. We all have experiences that other people don't have. We all have something valuable to offer. And I think telling our story, weaving that into the brand messaging and not being afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's so important and there's a lot that others can learn. And I think it shows maturity too for all of us as business owners as we're able to it's hard to share the wounds when they're open or it's always easier to share the scars once you've been through it and can reflect on what you learned from something.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important. I think being an entrepreneur can feel so lonely sometimes,
Hmm.
and it's hard to remember that, yes, I'm going through this, but so many other people are going through the same thing I'm going through right
Yeah.
now, or they've been through it already. And,
Yeah.
they can give me some insight as to how they've handled it.
Yes. Now, Katie, one of the things I like to do is to ask my guests if they have any favorite resources or tools they want to share with us. But I know you already offer so many resources. So, what resources give us a map of tradeshowcamp.com.
Yeah.
How can somebody who is brand new to tradeshowcamp.com, your website, navigate around there? Where should a new person to your site start? What resources should we start with? And when should we graduate to like
To
the
the next level.
coaching and the course? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So I would start at our start here. So it would be
Okay.
tradeshowcamp.com/start here or prooftoproduct.com/start here. And that's going to help you figure out where, you'll give us some information about what you need help with, and then we'll get you the
Oh,
resources you need as quickly as
nice.
possible. And so that is where I would encourage your audience to start. And we've got a ton of different things available to them. If they don't have time to go to the website and kind of start there, then definitely check out our podcast, Proof to Product. There's a lot of great conversations happening there on a wide range of topics that are applicable to all product makers. And we actually have a lot of service people that listen now too and tell me they like it, even though it was truly built for product-based business owners.
Yeah. Any plans to adjust anything you're doing to help service-based business owners, or do you think it's working the way it is and people are still able to get benefit?
Yeah, I feel like the product world is underserved, and that is where my heart is. That's where my knowledge base is. That's where my experience is. So my plan is to continue to nurture those people. And, if service-based people listen and they get some nuggets along the way that help them, I'm happy to help them. I do have some service-based clients that work with me on a one-on-one basis, and I'm happy to work with them personally. But in terms of the products and programs we're offering through Tradeshow Bootcamp and Proof to Product, that is going to be focused on product companies.
Nice. I like that. Clear vision, and you're sticking with it.
Trying to. I mean, it's always a work in progress, right? We all are, but thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So I will link directly in the show notes to tradeshowcamp.com/start here and prooftoproduct.com/start here. So
yeah, they'll head to the same page, so you'll be in good hands there.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. So folks can navigate their way around. Katie, if anyone wants to connect with you or get in touch with you in some way, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so definitely follow us on Instagram. I'm at tradeshowcamp.com. I'm personally handling all of our social media, so you will get me directly if you send me a message there. We also have a contact form on our website, and you can absolutely contact me there. Let us know how we can help you. We do have a wide range of programs and products and coaching options available. So if you have any questions about what's the best fit for you, I'm always there to lend an ear and help guide you towards what you need.
Yay. Katie, thank you so much for being my guest. I have so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for being so real and just making everything seem doable and being a resource to this community. Thank you.
Oh, Ijama, thank you so much for having me. This was a true pleasure. And just to your audience, remember, everyone starts in the same spot, the very beginning. So just keep going step by step, progress by, little progress is still progress. So keep working hard and everything will come. Good things will come.
Yes. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.